All right, y'all, what's going on? All right. Happy Saturday afternoon, y'all. Put a one in the chat if you can hear me loud and clear. And I'm going to be covering a few things today. So I'm going to be talking about basic meal prep, but also recipe ideas, overall meal structure, herbal teas, different things like that, right? All right, there we go. Y'all hear me loud and clear. Got some ones in the chat. There we go. All right. My man Jay Short, what's going on, brother? Good to see you in here. Absolutely. Miss Sadora, what's going on? Good to see you in here. All right. Well, she dropped out a second. I will see if she pops back in here. But yeah, so basically taking y'all through some meal prep on a Saturday afternoon, right? Getting into it. And I got some exciting things that I want to share. So today, I'm in the middle of the first test, what was it? The first test app of the Tribe by Noir app. So working on that. So yeah, things are coming along pretty smooth here. Oh, there we go. We got Miss Sadora in the chat. Good to see you in here. First of all, let me do a little bit of cleanup. Where's my... All right, here we go. So yeah, so I got the first iteration of the... Did I just... Yeah, so the first iteration of the test app. This is the test app to make sure all the features are working correctly and whatnot. So that's pretty exciting. So yeah, for those of you who are Tribe members, definitely you'll be getting you'll be getting a first peek on the inside of the app. So all of the chat functionality, the calls, the courses, your personal coaching plans, all of that will be directly on the app. All right. Currently right now, I'm also live in the Discord voice chat. Right. So I also got the video up and running in the voice chat on the member Discord, so you can tune in there as well. Big shout out to everybody tuning in on the Discord. Right? So I'm gonna start with the breakfast kasha recipe. All right, so I'm gonna put together, let's get started with this breakfast kasha recipe. I'm gonna make some tea and put some tea on the stove. I gotta clean some grapes. And definitely leave your questions in the chat. And if you would like to come up on stage and join me, let me know. And I'll put the link. Well, you can join in on the voice chat on the Discord, but if you would like to join me in studio, let me know. I'll pin the link to that in the chat. So first off, your high raw vegan diet, right? Your fully raw vegan diet is pretty much where, you eat fruits and whatnot throughout the day. You can accessorize with some leafy greens, nuts, and seeds along with the meals. I generally like to keep nuts and seeds separate from my fruit meals. But there's also a rule that I like to follow, right? So it depends on what your goal is. But for me personally, right? Let's say I'm doing a like a fully raw diet. If I'm doing a fully raw diet, my fats are going to be a bit higher. And I get my Buddha bowl on, right? The bowl I mostly eat out of is this right here, my big mixing bowl. Either that or my wood bowl, right? I like to clean up a little bit before the prep. I didn't get to do that before I jumped on here. So I like to clean up first, polish up my stove because it's looking a little, I don't know, looking a little greasy. I don't know why. I don't know what that is. All right. So yeah, basically, I'm gonna start off with some burdock root. So as you notice, I got a lot of bananas here. So I typically, on training days in particular, I'll start off with a few pounds of bananas. So this is probably like 2 pounds, maybe something like that, or a little underneath 2 pounds. If I put bananas in your diet plan and it says like 16 or 32 ounces of bananas, I'm talking about the bananas weighed without the peel, right? So you peel the banana first and then put it on. Typically, a banana is around 4 ounces. If it's a really big banana, it may be around 6 ounces or so, right? So bananas typically are in between 4 to 6 ounces without the peel, right? So 4 bananas of this size would be like 16 ounces, right? 8 of them would be more along the lines of 32 ounces, right? But if you're new to things, it's good to weigh things, right? So food scale, real easy, right? So a food scale would be like around 20 bucks or something like that, 25 bucks. If you get like a really fancy one, maybe like 30 something dollars or whatever, but they're generally not that expensive. So with this weighed with the peel, this is 34 ounces with the peel, right? These bananas. And this is 5 bananas, right? So that kind of falls in line with what I was talking about. I'm not gonna start with bananas today because today's not a training day. Generally on non-training days, I'd like to start off with a melon, right? So it would either be a honeydew or a cantaloupe, and about 2 pounds or so of each one. Melons are not typically very like calorically dense. They're very water rich. This is like 80 to 90% water, right? This, by the way, this honeydew, this is a pretty big honeydew, right? And when you're doing honeydew, you don't measure the honeydew with the rind on it, right? So it would be peeled first. So this is 114 ounces. I can change the unit by hitting the unit button. So this is 109 fluid ounces, and then this is 7 pounds with the rind, right? So once I peel it and everything and scoop the seeds out and whatnot, it'll be like around in between 4 and 5 pounds. All right. So just giving you some perspective. On a high raw vegan diet, it's actually really easy. So let's say you've been dealing with a lot of insulin resistance and you're trying to fix your insulin resistance. What you would do is you would have your fruits throughout the morning and early afternoon, and then you would have more of a cooked savory meal towards the end of the day, right? As the sun's going down. It's the easiest format to do. So for example, let's say if you're a woman, women on average need around 250, well, I want to say in between 200 and 300 grams of carbs typically, right? It could be even more than that depending on how active you are. So you can have like 2 fruit meals, like 2 fruit bowls. So you can do the bananas, right? It's like if you do 16 ounces of bananas, that's like 100 grams of carbs, right? And then after that, you can do another fruit bowl. That's another 100 grams of carbs. And that would essentially give you 200 grams of carbs right there, right? And then your savory meal is where you can have like another, anywhere from 50 to 100 grams of carbs in that meal, right? But that's where you're going to get more of like your protein and your fats and things like that. So you can put avocado and stuff like that in there. So I think what I'm going to do here, just give me a second to come on back. So while I'm talking to y'all, I'm going to start with a nice citrus bowl. What's going on, Dragonfly? Good to see you in here. Yeah, so that's basically how you do it. If you do it that way, you can definitely get at least 300 grams of carbs, or at least 250, somewhere around there. Right, so that works out real well. So basically, if you're just eating your fruits throughout the day, fruits are scientifically categorized as anti-obesogens. meaning the more fruit you eat, the more body fat you drop, the more weight you lose, right? Also, fruits is like one of the foods that you eat that it influences your insulin sensitivity the quickest, meaning the more fruit you eat, the more insulin sensitive you become, right? So if you're trying to decongest your metabolism, you're trying to decongest on a cellular level, decongest your liver, kidneys, lymphatic channels, that type of thing, having a fruit dominant diet is going to yield the best results the fastest. Right, this is a large part of why like a juice fast works very well, right? And I'll get into juicing as well, because juicing can be very useful and beneficial for particular things. One thing that I like to use juicing to reverse would be something like anemia, right? Another one would be like, let's say, there are certain foods that are very beneficial to your health. They'll have a lot of good stuff in them, but your gut doesn't do well with the fiber. So you may want to juice those things, right? So you can get the benefit of that food without having a reaction to the fiber, right? So if you got like leaky gut issues or something like that, you may want to do something like that, right? So let me get started here. Put the bowl on, zero out. Also, women, one thing that really benefits women is starting eating earlier. With women, one of the best things that you can do to improve your health, especially like your hormones and everything like that, is to start eating earlier. Men do very well with intense fasting. Women do also, but there's more blowback. So basically, one of the biggest problems that women have is stress being way too high, way too much stress, right? And you can leverage your estrogen and progesterone and whatnot to manage stress, but the problem is the older you get, the less effective you get at doing that, right? You start to make these trades where it more negatively impacts your health, to the point where it becomes extremely easy for you to gain weight, gain body fat in particular. And then the stress can drive you into like an early menopause where your estrogen level starts falling off a cliff. So then you start storing more body fat around the midsection, whereas before, when you had an abundance of estrogen, you would store it in your hips, thighs, and arms, not so much in the stomach. You may get a little fupa, but not to the point where you just develop like a wide torso, right? So you have a lot of women who are insanely stressed, and one of the biggest mistakes you make is you skip breakfast. If you're a woman where like you have poor sleep quality, a really irregular sleep schedule, restless leg and all of this type of stuff, real easy weight gain, low appetite, gut health issues, gas, bloating, right? All of these weird gut health issues, it's the stress, right? So your cortisol's really high, your adrenal glands are pumping real hard, and you're becoming more insulin resistant by the day, right? And this can affect like your kidney health, your blood pressure, your blood sugar, all this type of stuff. And skipping breakfast makes it worse because that just amps up your adrenal response, right? So your adrenal output, meaning your adrenal glands will release more cortisol, right? So you get this chronically elevated cortisol that just doesn't come down in the day. So your cortisol is particularly the highest in the morning, but it comes down pretty quickly soon after, right? Like an hour or so after you wake up. However, if you're used to skipping breakfast, you could be dealing with just perpetually elevated cortisol. So I just put like 2 oranges in here. I think that's like 5 ounces. All right, so I'll be peeling quite a few of these. So I'm going to try to get like anywhere from 16 to 20 ounces of tangerines here. This is actually a really phenomenal source of calcium and vitamin C, believe it or not. So if you're like, hey, how can I get more calcium in my diet on a raw diet? Tangerines is one of those foods that would definitely get you there. How do you feel about calorie cycling eat 1,500 calories during the week and 2,500 calories on the weekend to drop weight. I guess that could probably work. I don't really have a big reason why I would want to do that. But I mean, it could work if you get your body used to eating the 1,500, and then, you know, as your body gets adjusted to eating less, your metabolism will down-regulate. So then when you eat more on the weekends, then your body has to uptick to gain weight. I mean, to adjust back to the 2,500. So you give your body a bit of a break if you eat more food on the weekend. That could work. It's highly individualized. It depends. I think that would work more for men than it would for women, right? But in particular, like with a raw diet, like what I'm talking about, especially like a raw fruitarian or fruit-based diet, eating earlier in the day is actually extremely beneficial, right? To get in your fruits and things like that, right? So it's just good, clean energy that helps to detoxify your body, right? So you can really load up on like vitamin C, vitamin K, malic acid, water, B vitamins, potassium, especially. You get a lot of potassium from fruit. Fruit is like really good for the potassium. So if you're experiencing like chronic dehydration, lightheadedness, fatigue, things like that, easy weight gain, terrible sleep quality, that could be lack of potassium. Could be, right? And then you could also be eating foods that could be depleting your potassium. Right? So think about like animal products, whether it be seafood, fish, meat, dairy. These things deplete your magnesium, your potassium. And then if these things are inflammatory, the inflammation can deplete your magnesium and your iron. So iron depletion or iron deficiency, anemia, is actually a very common thing among women. And there's a few reasons why you would have low iron. It's not just because like you don't get enough iron in your diet. That's not really the case. It's usually not the issue. Usually women will have a lack of iron or have anemia due to chronic oxidative stress. So your body will deploy iron in order to neutralize toxins and reduce inflammation, right? So mainly the alkalizing minerals are responsible for doing this inside your body, right? So you have 5 alkalizing macro minerals, right? So your 5 alkalizing macro minerals are potassium, calcium, iron, magnesium, and manganese. So when you have high levels of inflammation or chronic stress that your body's dealing with, essentially what happens is your body will deploy those minerals in order to counteract the inflammation. All right. So you got to be aware of that sort of thing, because that right there will kill your magnesium. And the thing is that as you deplete your magnesium, you deplete your potassium. That leads to anxiety. And then as you deplete your iron, you get fatigue, you get headaches, you get all type of weird stuff, right? Even shortness of breath. You may have difficulty breathing, right? So iron is extremely important for reducing inflammation. It's also extremely important for growing like hair, skin, nails, maintaining your skin quality. Really important for oxygenating your cells, right? So your red blood cells are needed to transport oxygen through your blood to your cells, right? So you can't really take up oxygen without the adequate level of iron needed for the red blood cells, and to maintain adequate hemoglobin, which is a blood protein that absorbs the oxygen, right? It's heavy stuff. All right, so we're up to 15 ounces of the tangerines here. We almost there. This is one thing, like I get tired of like peeling. There's so many of these little things, and keep peeling them. And it's cold, so it's wearing out my fingertips a little bit here. That's why I generally don't like to store my fruits and whatnot in the fridge. but it was so much. And to keep them from kind of drying out, because it's a little dry here in the apartment. So as a means of preserving them, especially nowadays, something's been going on with the produce, where the produce has been spoiling real quick. Are y'all experiencing that? Y'all notice y'all produce is like drying out, like they're drying out and going bad real quick, like unusually quick within like 3 days or something? Especially with like leafy green vegetables. It seems to be like a real problem. It's extremely common. So I don't know if that's just me or if y'all are experiencing that also. Can you overdo potassium? Not really, no. I've even had people with kidney disease, and we put them on a high fruit diet, or I put them on a high fruit diet, and they don't have any type of negative issues with potassium. So you have doctors and stuff, they're like, oh, be careful of your potassium intake. And they keep fear mongering about potassium, which is kind of weird because increasing your potassium is one of the best things that you can do for your kidney health. Right? It's extremely difficult to be able to cleanse your blood and have healthy kidneys, without adequate potassium. Potassium in particular, though, is water soluble, right? So it's not like you can over accumulate potassium because it's water soluble, right? So if you're eating a lot of potassium in your diet, but you're getting it from very water rich foods, excess potassium will just be filtered out. You just urinate and it'll come out in your urine, right? So your adrenal glands and your kidneys, they communicate with each other. So there's this hormone signaling back and forth between your adrenal glands and your kidneys that signal how much potassium to hold and how much to get rid of. It's the same thing with any of your electrolytes: magnesium, potassium, calcium, right? All this stuff. Manganese is very interesting too, because manganese, people don't talk about manganese very much, and manganese is actually fruits are very rich in manganese in particular. And manganese is needed in order to maintain hair, skin, nails, bone density, bone health, tooth enamel. Manganese is needed in order to build muscle, all types of stuff. Manganese is a building mineral, right? So it's like the scaffolding, or it's in part, it makes up the scaffolding of your cells, right? So if you're trying to build muscle and whatnot, that manganese really helps with that. All right, so this is 26 ounces of tangerines. So just for perspective, and I'm gonna pull up Chronometer right quick. And I'm gonna plug in, and I can show y'all what this looks like too. So hold on one second. Let me go share my screen right quick. Where's it at? There we go. All right. Let's see, can y'all see that? Oh, let me bring it up. Let me bring it up. There we go. All right. So for here, this is actually my first meal of the day. So tangerines, let's see, 16 ounces. See, so basically this is 22 ounces, right? Yeah. It's not 26, 22 ounces. So this is 331 calories. Right, so tangerines, this is 331 calories, 83 grams of carbs, 5 grams of protein, and 2 grams of fat. Right, so I'm already getting 185% of vitamin C, 30% of thiamine. Thiamine is really important for insulin sensitivity and nervous system function. And look, potassium, right? So this is 1 gram of potassium right up in here. with these tangerines. All right. Yeah, that was chronometer. Okay, so basically sources of iron within a raw vegan diet, right? So all the plant-based foods have iron in them, right? Some more than others. So going back to the juicing thing, like why would you want to juice on a raw vegan diet? So on a raw vegan diet, what you can do is a lot of your iron will come from leafy green vegetables, nuts and seeds, right? And then you do have fruits that are a bit higher in iron than others. Like you'll have, avocado has iron in it. Your melons have iron in them. Your berries, they have iron in them, right? So you accumulate iron. Your kiwis, they have iron in them. But your leafy green vegetables, that's where you get a lot of iron, right? Your leafy green vegetables and then your nuts and seeds. So your hemp seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, things like that. But if you want to get more iron in your diet, one thing that you can do is you can actually juice leafy greens along with fruit, right? So when you juice leafy greens with the fruits, the vitamin C from the fruit makes the iron from the leafy greens more absorbable. So you get a lot more iron absorption when you mix the fruits and the leafy greens together in a juice. All right. So that's a good thing to notice there. So let's say if we go to, and let me pull this up here on my, so leafy green vegetables. So I'm going to put in, let's say I do spinach. So I'm going to juice some spinach. And let's say the amount of spinach that we juice, and I'm going to show you all this in a second. So with the spinach, let's say we juice 7 ounces. Let me pull this up. Hold on. Here we go. All right. So with the spinach, the iron in that spinach, we're already up to 79% of my total iron, right? Just in between the spinach and just the spinach right there gives me like that much. So now let's say I do spinach and I do spinach and grapefruit. Do spinach and grapefruit, and let's say for grapefruit I do, let's say 11 ounces of grapefruit. So that combined now brings me up to 82%. I'm getting 12% of my iron from tangerines. I'm getting 3% from the grapefruit. I'm getting 67% from the spinach. All right. So after these tangerines here, what can I add next? Let's say if I do blueberries. And the blueberries, I do 6 ounces. And if I do the 6 ounces of blueberries, that brings me up to, as far as iron is concerned, that gives me an additional 0.5 milligrams, so that's 6%. Now let's add, I like to combine berries. So let's do raspberries. So I'm gonna do raspberries, I'm gonna do another 6 ounces. All right. So now with the iron, that brings it to 103%. So the raspberries are actually a really significant source of iron. So that's at 15% of my iron. So in just 693 calories, I've hit my iron for the day. All right. So now what you can also do is, let's say I do coconut yogurt. Matter of fact, let me see if I can find cocoa-yo in here. There we go. So we got cocoa-yo, and let's say we add in how many ounces? Let's do 6 ounces of coconut yogurt. And in the coconut yogurt, we'll add some hemp seeds. So this would be like a second meal in here, for example, giving y'all an example of this here. And let's say we do 3 tablespoons. All right, so we got a mixed berry coconut smoothie bowl. So this is blueberries, raspberries, and 3 tablespoons of hemp seeds with 6 ounces of coconut yogurt. So that's 487 calories, 59 grams of carbs, 25 grams of fat, and 17 grams of protein. So within 994 calories, we already got 30 grams of protein, 183 grams of carbs, and 28 grams of fat. And the iron is now at 151%. All right. Omega-3 essential fatty acids, 220%. So this is shaping up pretty good here, right? Let me make my tea. Hold on. Where's my mug? Get my tea mug. So I'm a big fan. So this is how like I meal prep, right? So you can use, and this is very good. Like if you're new to like your nutrition journey or something like that, it's good to, weigh things. Like you get a food scale, you measure your foods, you can plug them into Chronometer and see like the nutrient values of your different foods and whatnot. And it's more of a learning tool, right? So you build up like an internal wealth of knowledge to see what foods have what, right? So you want more vitamin C, you want more iron, you want more manganese, you want more copper, that kind of thing, right? So that's good as a learning resource. So you can do mock meal plans for yourself also and put things together and see what you come up with, right? So there's like these nutrient bars, right? Micronutrient bars. And basically the more nutrients you get, the bars fill up, right? You see these green bars in Chronometer. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So if we go back here, right, and we scroll down, you see these green bars? So you want to try to fill up those green bars. So you see with the vitamin K, look at this vitamin K, 838%. Okay? And so far with this here, this is 24% fat, 66% carbs, 10% protein. Right, so pretty good so far. So that's, it's a good frame of reference to learn nutrition, so to speak. That's right, I am live. So I'm doing Saturdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, right? It's a pretty good time slot. And if I can, I'll throw back in where's my tea steeper? I'll throw back in the Thursday night lives also. Oh, here we go. All right, so make some burdock root. Normally I drink my tea before meals, but this is just how it's working out today. So I do about 2 tablespoons of burdock for tea. Burdock root I'm a real big fan of burdock root. Burdock root is one of those detoxifying herbs. So if you've got like kidney issues, if you've got congested liver issues, if you've got high blood pressure, things like that, you've got excessively elevated adrenal output, right? Anxiety, heart palpitations, things like that. Burdock is one of them roots, one of them herbs that would definitely help. And we got somebody tuning in on the Discord voice chat. What's going on? Oh.
Hey, Coach.
What's going on, Miss D?
How are you?
I'm all right. You in your new place?
No, didn't work out yet.
Oh, okay. What's going on? You're gonna be when you getting in there?
Hopefully Monday or Tuesday.
Gotcha. Okay, there you go. Yeah, I'm excited for you.
Thank you. Me too.
You know, brand new place. Get that brand new car smell, right? The proverbial brand new car smell. That's right. All right. So we got the tea ready. I'm starting eating real late today, but I'm kind of used to it. So normally, like when I do my alternate day fasting with my 24-hour fasting strategy, I do that Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Right. So I wasn't really particularly in a rush to eat today. So I'm getting back on my alternate day fasting strategy grind. So we're going to hold out a bit as I get through the rest of this prep. I'm going to show you a little bit about how I clean fruit. So I've got some grapes that I got to clean. So actually, before I clean these grapes, let me weigh them out. All right, so this is a pound and 6 ounces. All right. It's a little light, but generally I try to get I try to get 2 pounds of grapes at a time because 1 pound of grapes is like 1 serving of grapes for me. So I usually eat grapes like 1 pound at a time. So, and just to show y'all this, and actually, how could I forget, right? So with the grapes, so if we do 16 ounces for that 1 pound, for those who want to know, if we look at the iron content or the copper content, check this out. If we go here, oh, Miss D, you can't see this on the Discord chat. That's right. Copper, 64% of my copper intake. Iron, 20%. Right? So grapes are a huge source of vitamin K. Look at this vitamin K. That 16 ounces is half. It's 55% of vitamin K. Vitamin K is extremely important for your gut health. So the grapes put me, as far as iron is concerned, the grapes put me at 172% for my iron needs. And it's 1,307 calories. So grapes, 1 pound of grapes is 313 calories, 3 grams of protein, 82 grams of carbs, and 0.7 grams of fat. So basically 1 gram of fat, we'll say. All right, so I'm gonna soak these right quick. You know what I'm saying? Whenever I get new fruits and whatnot, I like to clean them. So I put baking soda and then I put vinegar. All right. There we go, Miss D. All right. So I'm gonna fill this with cold water. And then I'm gonna let this sit. And then I'm gonna prep my breakfast kasha. I call it a breakfast kasha because it's kind of like a breakfast, so you can have it as a breakfast, but I'm not gonna eat it as a breakfast. All right. So that's that. So I let it sit. All right, so I'll let that sit there. Got my tea. Put my burdock back. All right, now let's get to the kasha. So in a prior stream for y'all, I did my, what was it? It was the spicy taco kasha salad. Spicy kasha taco salad, or spicy taco kasha salad. I forgot how I named that. Oh, that smells good. So this is kasha. Basically kasha is toasted buckwheat, right? So it's kind of raw, but not really. Kinda. I guess technically it's not raw because it's toasted kasha or toasted buckwheat. But basically with this here, all I got to do is soak it. So this is about 1.5 cups of the kasha here. So I'm going to plug this in to the diet plan. So if I go to, let's say I'm gonna go to kasha and plug this in. And we measure it dry. Well, actually, is this 1.5 cups or is it it's not 1.5 cups. Actually, no, it's 3/4 cup. That's what this is. So we put 0.75. So this right here, 0.75, this is 426 calories, 14 grams of protein, 92 grams of carbs, and 3 grams of fat. And this is 38% of my iron, right? 85% of copper, 87% of manganese. Let me show y'all this here. All right. So yeah, okay. So y'all see this here? This is just the values of the kasha. Look at that copper intake. Look at that copper. Copper is actually really important. If you want to increase your iron intake, like if you want to reverse anemia, not only do you need to increase or have the adequate amount of iron intake, but also vitamin C and copper. And then in addition to that, B12. Okay. You need those things together in order to create red blood cells. So for the totals here, this is 1,733 calories, 48 grams of protein, 367 grams of carbs, 32 grams of fat. So the macros here, 16% fat, 76% carbs, 9% protein. All right, so look at that. Vitamin E is at 64%. That's almost finished. The calcium, 66%. Selenium, 40%. Zinc, 9 milligrams, so 81%. So the bars are filling up. All right. So I'm gonna dress this up. We said bread is a prison food. I don't know about that. I mean, you gonna be. I ain't trying to get in trouble with nobody calling bread prison food. You know what's amazing about burdock is burdock. It smells like chocolate a little bit. It's got like this chocolatey, earthy smell to it. It's amazing. All right. In any case, with the kasha, I actually need my white bowl there. So what I'm gonna do is I don't have any more of my glass meal prep containers. What's going on with that? All right. I'm trying to figure out where my meal prep containers went. Oh, I know. Huh. I'm actually using a couple of them. There's some meals I got in here. All right, fair enough. All right, so I'm going to transport my tangerines into this bowl here. And I'm going to use this bowl to mix the breakfast kasha. And I'll show y'all what I put in there, how I make it. I go through phases with things. So the breakfast kasha is actually something I used to do a lot a few years ago. This is a bit packed. This is going to be a bit of a tight fit. I'm going to have to smash down on the tangerines a little bit. All right. Let's see if I could press them down. Let's see. All right. Yeah, that works. That works. All right, there we go. So this is meal prep. You could bring to work. All right, 22 ounces of tangerines. You can also get like I don't know. It could probably fit like in a mason jar like this. All right. So with the kasha, just dump that in there. So with the kasha, in order to get it soft, because it's actually edible right now. Right. And it tastes kind of good too. It almost tastes like bread. Just like this. You don't have to cook it or anything. And then I'm gonna put like 8 ounces of plant-based milk in the mason jar. Because the milk I'm gonna add in last. So and I shake it up and get all the little giblets in there. Giblets is probably not the right word for it. Powdered peanuts. So I'll do 2 tablespoons of powdered peanuts. This is the powdered peanuts I use. So people often use PB Fit, so I use this one. Naked is a pretty good company. I like their stuff. I've been using it for years, right? I don't really change up much. I use their pea protein and peanut powder because they have like single ingredient stuff, and I like the whole single ingredient thing. I generally don't get supplements with more than one thing in it. So this is my naked pea. And I'm not gonna go crazy with this, so I'm just gonna put 1 scoop in this. All right. I'm not gonna load it up too much with the powders. Ooh, uh-oh. Y'all heard that? That thunder just clapped.
I sure did. Saw it too.
Let me tell you. And I'm on the top floor, so I hear that loud and clear. Magnesium malate, so I'd add a little bit of more magnesium into the mix. You don't have to do that. I just like to throw a little bit more of that in there. You know what I'm saying? I like to fully leverage the nutrition. glutamine. I'm not sponsored by this company. I'm just, I'm just keeping it real with y'all. That's what I use. And I'll put about 10 grams of glutamine in here. Glutamine is actually really good for muscle building, muscle recovery, and improving your gut health.
Is all of this going into the kasha?
Uh-huh. Is all of this is going into this mix, yeah. Now, and what I'm doing though, because I'm actually going to put agave in here, and I'm gonna put some sea salt and cinnamon. So I put like 3 tablespoons in here, and then I'm gonna log this in Chronometer so y'all can see what this looks like. Where's my salt at? I ain't got much salt. I'd be crushing the salt, y'all. I ain't gonna lie. But salt is a good training aid. And being that I have like a really high potassium diet, I like to add some salt in there. So if you're trying to like increase strength performance in the gym, so basically just a teaspoon is what I add in there. But so this is actually good for improving training performance. So muscle building and all of that type of stuff. Salt is actually a training aid. So that helps a lot. And being that I have like a high water, high potassium diet, adding a little extra salt, it's generally a good idea. And Ceylon cinnamon. So I add a teaspoon of cinnamon. All right. And then, where's it at? Agave. I'm gonna get a little liberal with the agave. So I eyeball it. All right. And then finally, add the plant-based milk and get the rest of the kasha that was in there. And I don't let no food go to waste, so I get every last bit of it. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I'm just mix it up. There's a salt shaker from India, and it's called black salt. Interesting. What percentage of your food is raw compared to cooked? On a monthly basis? That's interesting. I don't know. So basically, I'd probably say somewhere along the lines, like probably 90% or 95% of my food is raw. Where's my wooden spoon at? Where's my spoon at? All right, so I'm gonna use this one. And then basically just mix everything in here. And I'm gonna taste test this. So if I need to add anything, then I can just throw it on in. I can also crush cashews and things like that and add that in here too. All right, so I got cashews, I can crush almonds or walnuts, I can add that in here. But I'm not gonna do that though, because I already put in the hemp seeds. All right. And then after mixing this, if you wanted to, you could heat it up on the stove and cook it a little bit if you want to. I'm not doing that, but if you want to do that, you definitely can. So I mix everything in until it's nice and evenly mixed. All right, so Y'all can see that. I don't want to spill it. And that be that. So now I'm gonna taste test it. Oh, it's a salt, not a salt. I saw you put a salt shaker emoji. That makes more sense now. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's a banger. That's a banger. Yeah. All right. So this is like very similar to my overnight oats recipe. The only difference I'm just doing it with kasha here. But I'm gonna put this in a container. But I gotta clean it out because I don't have a clean one on deck. So yeah, this is a good thing to have at like the end of the day. Also, if you have like a sweet tooth, like you want something kind of sweet, but like maybe resembling like a pastry, like a birthday cake or something like that. That's why I like my overnight things like that, because it's like sugar, but it's also salty when you add the salt into it. And then when you add things like cinnamon or cacao, I also have cacao, and I add that in there. You know, adding in things like that, it's phenomenal. And it really hits that sweet tooth. So rather than like eating a cake or cookies or anything like that, this is a much better option. So like if you do have those kind of food cravings, doing that overnight oat recipe or doing like the breakfast kasha, much better option. And if you want, you can also add some nutmeg to it also, right? And you can add cacao and cinnamon. You can do both. And you can do crushed walnuts, you can do crushed cashews, right? Peanut powder, or you can do actual peanut butter. The only thing with the peanut butter is, you know, the added oils and stuff like that. I don't like that. So I want it bare bones, which is one ingredient, peanuts. I don't want a whole bunch of other stuff up in the mix. I don't really like that. I like my stuff bare bones. They putting all kind of stuff into everything. I don't like that. I want as few ingredients as possible. That's why I like the pea protein, that naked pea protein. It's just pea protein isolate. There's only one ingredient. It's peas. That's it. And that's good enough for me. I don't need a whole bunch of stuff. I don't like that. Even like my teas, I get the herb in bulk and I make my own tea bags. Right? Or I just steep it in the tea steeper. So there's not really many things I get pre-made, or I don't even get my fruit pre-cut either. I don't like doing that either. Let me cut it. All right? I need to know. I need to do it. Got to practice that food sovereignty. All right. And so after this, I got to rinse off the grapes. I like to do protein smoothies too on like training days. So on training days, I'll do a protein smoothie too. I'm probably just going to do like a short about that, about what I put in it and why. But I do, in a protein smoothie, I do plant-based milk, pea protein isolate, powdered peanuts, the magnesium, the glutamine, the 5 grams of creatine monohydrate. And then I'll put, if I'm having the protein shake earlier in the day, I'll put matcha powder in it. So I'll put matcha powder in it. I'll put liquid stevia in it. I'll put like a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt in it. What else? And I put hemp seeds in it. Right? So the sea salt is like a training aid. The matcha is really good for blood sugar, blood pressure control. It's also got a bit of vitamin C in it, iron, copper, that kind of thing, loaded with antioxidants. So the matcha also kind of acts as a training aid slash recovery aid. It's really good for hormonal stability, and it's got a little bit of caffeine in it too. So it's almost like a stimulant to give you more energy post-workout. The hemp seeds, really good source of copper, iron, magnesium, manganese, zinc, protein, like 3 grams, like 3 tablespoons of hemp seeds is like 10 grams of protein, something like that. 10 grams of protein. All right. And we deal with the grapes. So normally what I would do is bag these up afterwards. Let's see, do you ever use stevia drops? Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I like to use, so I make a pre-workout also. So my pre-workout, I put taurine, citrulline malate, creatine monohydrate, sometimes, not all the time. Lime juice or lemon juice, usually lime juice. What else do I put? I'll put like a drop of B complex in it to get like extra like B vitamins, like, you know, thiamine and what else? Niacin, things like that, B12. And then what else do I put in it? And I'll put a drop of liquid stevia in it. So the B12 I use is this one. So I have this in the Tribe Shop also. So that's the one that I use there. And then my stevia, also in the Tribe Shop. A lot of this stuff that I use just now is like, it's in the Tribe Shop. Well, all of it I think is in the Tribe Shop, even the kasha. And that's my Sweet Drops liquid stevia. So it's in the shop. All right. Frozen fruit goes hard in shakes. Well, you said Jasmine, I don't believe so. You don't believe so about what? What did I say? Just had some red grapes earlier. Them yawns be good. You need to rinse those grapes again? Yeah, I will, but I don't want to spend too much time on it. I gotta drink my tea before it gets cold. But what I'm gonna do, because we gotta go back. We gotta go back to chronometer. And in this kasha, we gotta plug in everything I just put in there. So we gotta plug in the naked PB. We gotta plug in the pea protein isolate, so we only did 1 scoop. We gotta put in the agave. I think I must have put in maybe like a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons in there. I think that was like 2 tablespoons. I love me some sugar, man, let me tell you. I put in 3 tablespoons of hemp seeds. So we gotta go to whole hemp seeds. I put 3 tablespoons in there. What else did I put in there? I think that's it, right? All right. So that total meal is 832 calories, 44 grams of protein, 131 grams of carbs, 19 grams of fat. So this right here is 2,139 calories, 78 grams of protein, 396 grams of carbs, and 48 grams of fat. So the fat's 19%, the carbs is 68%, and the protein is 13%. All right. Oh, that's right. And in the plant-based milk, I forgot to put that in there. So I used silk soy milk. So I put 8 ounces of that. All right, now we got 2,234 calories, 404 grams of carbs, 86 grams of protein, and 52 grams of fat. Really like 53. So 20% fat, 67% carbs, 13% protein. All right. So we got the vitamin E is still a little low. So I might just like, for the sake of it, I might just add like an ounce of sunflower seed kernels to my day. You don't particularly have to, but you know, the selenium, the sunflower seeds that cover that also. And then the zinc is at 12 milligrams. So we're filling up these green bars here. All right, we're filling up these green bars. For the vitamin D, you would either get that through sun exposure, you can add mushrooms in a salad or something like that. Or the plant-based milk. Right, so you get vitamin D from all of these things combined. So where would I put, you know, probably as a snack before bed, have the sunflower seed kernels. So when I said if you're going to be fully raw, more raw, your fats are going to be a bit higher. So if I do an ounce of sunflower seed kernels, that brings the fats up to 23%, carbs 64%, proteins 13%. So adding in the sunflower seed kernels brings the protein up to 91 grams of protein, carbs is 411 grams of carbs, and the fats is 66 grams of fat. So now the vitamin E is now up to 136% of vitamin E, and the selenium is 70%. Okay, fair enough. That's good enough. Good enough. All right. So we got the tangerines, that's like 1 meal. The grapes, that's meal number 2. The berries and the coconut yogurt, that's number 3. And then the kasha is number 4. Sunflower seed kernels is like it's like a snack, perhaps before bed. And then the juice, that could be like a morning juice, which I did not have today. All right. So yeah, this is, so meal prep, you know, so it may be intimidating to some, it may seem like a lot, but it's not particularly so bad. Actually, before I get into these tangerines here. See, my burdock is kind of warm. What kind of questions y'all got for me? That's right. We try to keep the vibes. Try to keep the vibes up. You know what I'm saying? Try to create a good vibe. Thank you, Patty. Oh, is tapioca starch not recommended for health freaks? I don't really. So tapioca starch doesn't really have any kind of detrimental effects to your health in particular. It'd be a thing that you may want to minimize or completely avoid if you have like deep gut health issues. But it's not going to be like everything in my diet is perfect and the one thing that's messing me up is tapioca starch. Like that's not really a thing. You got to have some pretty extreme issues for tapioca starch to be the deal breaker. Best exercise for hamstrings with resistance bands. I'm actually going to do like a separate standalone video about hamstring training. But basically, hamstring training breaks down into two categories. Hip extension and knee flexion, right? So generally speaking, when you train your hamstrings, you want to hit your hamstrings from both. Your hamstrings assist in hip extension. So hip extension essentially is if I'm standing up, I'm actually extending the hip, right? So if I bend down and touch my toes, I'm activating my hamstrings. Soon as my hands get closer to my knees here, I'm activating my hamstrings. If I shift my weight forward onto like the balls of my foot or something like that, for example, I'm getting more glute and hamstring activation, right? As I sit back, I'm getting more lengthening and activation of my hamstrings. So generally speaking, one of the best ways to train your hamstrings is you get this flat back posture, get a deep bend in the hip, right? Like an RDL, or like a Romanian deadlift or conventional deadlifts, right? And really load up and get a good stretch out of the hamstrings. This is a good way to just stretch the hamstrings. And a big part of growing a muscle, is lengthening the muscle. The more you can lengthen a muscle, the more you can train it to grow. So when you hinge at the hip and you fully extend up and drive the hips forward, you get a contraction in the hamstrings, assisting the glutes in extending the hip. So that's one. And then the most common form of hamstring training that people know is knee flexion. You can't say. Basically knee flexion. So there's two ways to train knee flexion. You can either train like a leg curl, but with the hip fully extended, or you can train the hamstring with the hip bent at either a 45 or a 90-degree angle, and then train hip flexion. If you do, let's say, you're in the gym or something, for example, and you do seated leg curls. The seated leg curls, at least according to the scientific research that's available on hamstring hypertrophy, which is basically hamstring muscle growth, the seated leg curl stimulates more growth in the hamstrings because of the bending of the hip, the flexing of the hip. Whereas like a prone leg curl where you're lying flat down on your stomach and then you're kicking the leg back, it creates a good contraction, but there's no flexion in the hip, so there's no flexion in the hip, so you don't lengthen the hamstring that much. So the lengthening of the hamstring is missing in that exercise. So if you're gonna do like a prone leg curl, you should also include RDLs and things like that to make up the difference to train the lengthening of the hamstring. Having said all of that, if you wanted to maximize hamstring growth, you need two things. Some type of deadlift or an RDL or stiff leg deadlift to lengthen the hamstring, and then leg curls where the hip is flexed at a 90-degree angle. All right. So with resistance bands, you can do RDLs with resistance bands, and you can do leg curls with resistance bands, right? And that's really it. Would you be open to doing an in-depth video on the lymphatic system? What happens if I'm rebounding and dry skin brushing, but all of my detox pathways might not be open to assist the toxin dumping or the toxin dump? So if you're dealing with lymphatic blockages, you're dealing with an incredible level of oxidative stress, inhibited sleep quality, and there's something funky going on with your diet. Usually when you optimize your diet and you add in like herbs, and it could be things like ashwagandha or burdock root. Burdock root is very effective actually at opening up your lymphatic pathways, right? So if you have more of like a raw, water-rich fruitarian style diet, and then you're adding in herbal teas, basil tea, or burdock root, ashwagandha at night, things like this. Or even, you can either do ashwagandha at night or you can do chamomile at night. Chamomile rebuilds the kidneys or repairs the kidneys from kidney damage. So you can do those, right? So the herbs combined with more of like a raw or high raw diet would really help with that the lymphatic clearance. My man Trevor, what's going on, brother? My man. But I will talk more in depth. Well, I'll do like streams and standalone videos about the lymphatic system. So yeah, those will be up. I got a lot of things on the docket to get to, including installing the new test app build for the Tribe by Noir app on my phone and using that. Also, if you want to test the app, let me know, and I can send you, hit me up in the Discord or DM me on the Tribe by Noir platform, and ask me to send you the test app file if you want to use it on your phone. I only have access to the Android build though. So Apple, and this is why I don't mess with Apple. I don't like Apple. To me, Apple is overpriced and under-delivers. But in any case, in order to develop an app for Apple or iPhones, you need an Apple developer account. So I was trying to enroll in the Apple developer account. The website is a bit of a struggle, so they weren't recognizing. What did it start with? You got to put in this CAPTCHA code that basically verifies that you're a person and not a bot trying to sign up. So the app didn't recognize its own CAPTCHA code. I had to do it like 4 times. Then you have to verify your phone number, right? Because you have to go through this identification thing, right? Then I would put my phone number in to verify my phone. They're supposed to text me a verification code. Instead, they emailed me the verification code. Okay. They weren't recognizing the verification code they just sent me. So I had to do that several times. Then you have to put in like your name, your address, all that type of stuff. Then they weren't recognizing my address, my business address or my home address. So I guess I did too many tries and the system locked me out. So it was like, oh, if you want to sign up, contact us. I've tried to contact them twice so far. So it's been like, almost 72 hours. Haven't heard back. So I don't know if people work at Apple, if anybody's home, I don't know. It's been like the only company, like the only retail company I've ever heard of where you email support and you get no response in at least a 24-hour period. That does not inspire confidence. So whenever they get back to me, I'm gonna continue emailing them. I'll do it a 3rd or 4th time, however, I don't know. But it's gonna take a little bit longer to develop the Apple app because of that, because just nobody's home at Apple apparently. Does fructose have the potential to make you bloat? Can fructose make you bloat? I don't know if fructose itself makes you bloat. I would imagine it's possible to some degree, maybe like if you have too much of it at a time. It's not usually the fructose, right? So for example, like if you put like agave in your food and you don't get like any bloating from adding agave, it's not fructose, because agave is like pretty much entirely fructose. So I don't think it's a fructose issue, right? It may be like your gut has a reaction that's kind of negative to a particular food that you're eating, right? So there may be like a little bit of a food sensitivity. One thing that really helps with this too, I've had the best results with people where they drink cinnamon tea before a meal, and that helps with the bloating, or ginger tea before a meal, and that helps with the bloating. Also, burdock and basil help with bloating as well, right? So it's good to figure out, well, what foods cause me to bloat, and then like what am I usually eating before those foods, right? So it's good to take a note of those things. And then as you improve your gut health, you can return back to those foods and not really have a reaction to them at all. I don't know if my detox pathways are blocked. I'm just wondering if it's something to consider. Oh, okay, got you. Yeah, because people have been asking me about lymph channels being blocked and whatnot. And that's a fairly common thing, and people get like edema and they get like swollen lymph nodes and stuff. But yeah, if you're doing like the dry brushing and things like that, like you're trying to clear out acid from your body. I know box breathing, like deep breathing exercises also really helps. What else? Water fasting, like if you do like a 20 or 24-hour fast and just herbal teas and water or lime juice and things like that, really help as well. Love your life journey. Thanks for the stream. Got a question. It's about building muscle. You made a video about muscle being only like a third made of protein. I'm basically only eating fruit. Yeah, so muscle is made out of mostly water. So the idea that you need a tremendous amount of protein to build muscle is just not true. However, if you're only eating fruit and you're not eating any other foods, one of your biggest issues is going to be under eating, right? So if you're only eating fruit, but you're not eating enough, it can be very difficult to build muscle. So the glucose or the carbohydrates in the water from the fruit is a real big driver of muscle growth. However, you still need certain, vitamins, minerals, and amino acids and things like that to support the muscle recovery and the growth. So you don't need a lot, you just need enough, right? So you may want to consider having more, like for example, you may want to consider having anywhere from like 4 to 7 ounces of leafy green vegetables a day. You may want to consider having anywhere from 4 to 8 ounces of nuts and seeds per day, right? This kind of thing. Muscle building is largely driven by energy, right? Protein is not really energy, right? So like cellular proliferation, recovery of damaged cells, just anabolism, hypertrophy. The ability to recover from that, adapt, and then grow beyond baseline requires a tremendous amount of energy. And of your food intake, your brain uses like 25% of it, right? So even if you're eating like an abundance of fruit and carbohydrates, just understand a lot of it is going to be powering your nervous system and your brain. So you also want to make sure that you're eating enough where you can fill your muscle glycogen stores as well as power your brain and your nervous system, right? But then you still need enough of like, your zinc, your iron, your selenium, right? And the various different types of amino acids that you need, like your branched chain amino acids and whatnot, in order to build the actual structure of the muscle cells. You know what's really interesting too about a raw diet or a high raw diet and why it's so effective for building muscle while simultaneously being lean? Like you don't have to do a dirty bulk, for example. If you have food that drives down oxidative stress, that converts into anabolism or hypertrophy, like muscle hypertrophy, muscle growth. So if you're going through oxidative stress, your body responds to oxidative stress with inflammation. So now your body is fighting against something that is like a threat to the integrity of your body. That suppresses the growth of muscle. The more chronic inflammation and oxidative stress you have in your body, the less muscle growth you get, right? If you decrease the oxidative stress and inflammation, you get more anabolism, you get more growth. The reason why is because your body can focus on building rather than defending against things that are damaging your body. Right? So your body's like playing defense and offense. The more defense your body has to play to prevent oxidative stress and catabolism, which is the breakdown of cells, then the less energy it will have to be able to build. So you're split in between those two modes, defending or building, or defense, offense, right? So anything that isn't growing is dying. And so if something is dying and your body's trying to prevent it from dying, that's where your energy goes, right? So I always tell people, human health is a zero-sum game, which means more of one thing is necessarily less of another, right? So it's a very important thing to keep in mind. Karen, I had type 2 diabetes since 2017. My last A1C was 7. So, what was your highest A1C? How long ago was that? What have you been doing to reverse it? What about for iron? Yeah, I covered iron earlier. That's one of the first things that I covered. But you had to be more specific about what you mean when you say, what about iron? So like, for example, I covered like using juicing in order to increase iron levels in your body to reverse anemia. So you can juice like a fruit that is high in vitamin C with a leafy green vegetable. Like I used spinach, which is very high in iron. You can also use kale or watercress or arugula, things like that. And I used, I believe, like 5 ounces or something like that, or 7 ounces, one of those. And so you get a lot of iron from that. Raspberries, blueberries, you get a lot of iron from that. Tangerines, grapes, you get a lot of iron. Not a lot, but you get small amounts, then they accumulate. And then the kasha, I added that. And so basically the iron, so if you notice, and I'll show this right quick, these were the foods that I added. So I did like a whole mock meal plan. Well, this is like mostly raw. There's not really anything like cooked in here. Besides the kasha. The kasha is toasted buckwheat. That's like the only thing that's kind of cooked here. So we were targeting iron. So we ended up with iron, 293%. And the foods were spinach, hemp seeds, and kasha were the top 3. A pound of grapes came in at number 4 at 20% in my iron. Coconut yogurt 19%. Then the pea protein, there's iron in that also, 18%. Sunflower seeds, that's another 18%. Silk soy milk, 15%. And then the raspberries and the tangerines at the bottom. Right, so you accumulate your iron through here. And this whole mock meal plan that we did here came out to 2,395 calories, 411 grams of carbs, 91 grams of protein, and 66 grams of fat. So this is a high energy diet. And by the way, you can tell it's a high energy diet. Look at the copper. Look at this, copper, 430%. Vitamin K, 917%. Right? Manganese, 509%. Magnesium, 277%. Look at this. Vitamin A, 165%. Vitamin C, 448%. Pyridoxine, 228%. Thiamine, 220%. The minerals that are most responsible for powering your nervous system or facilitating the conduction of electrical energy through your nervous system. All of that is the backbone of that is minerals combined with organic substances like vitamins, B vitamins, vitamin C, that type of thing. It's a high energy diet, right? A high energy alkaline diet, all right? So you're 61 with type 2. I crave carbs and sweets. Does eating fruit elevate my blood sugar? Okay. So I was on a call with somebody earlier. And they asked me, they said, what's the relationship between sugar and like diseases like cancer? So they asked me what the relationship was between the two, right? They asked me about cancer. He's not type 2, he's pre-diabetic. But the goal isn't, the reason why you're craving carbohydrates or sugar is because your brain is starving for energy, right? That's what the sugar cravings will come from. That's a normal thing. There's not really much of a point in avoiding sugar because sugar is the primary source of energy for the human body. Your body just runs on sugar for energy. Your body prioritizes sugar so much that it will take fat and even protein and convert it into sugar, right? Scientifically known as glucose. That's how important sugar is. When you're insulin resistant and you're fatigued and tired and sleep deprived, you get sugar cravings, right? You get sugar and salt cravings because you're not well fed and you're undercarbed, right? So your nervous system and your brain don't have the access to the necessary sugar and whatnot and the electrolytes as needed. When you're diabetic or you have high blood pressure or fatty liver or whatever the case is, these are issues that are largely driven by dehydration, electrolyte deficiency, and inflammation, which are often a result of the dehydration and the lack of electrolytes and whatnot. The goal isn't to like, oh, I need to avoid sugar to keep my blood sugar numbers down. It's not a worthy endeavor because it won't get you to reverse diabetes. The only way you reverse diabetes is by improving insulin sensitivity. So what would make more sense for you is to prioritize the sugar and minimize the other things in your diet. So if you have like more of a raw diet that is carb dominant, meaning like your dietary fats are anywhere from like 10 to 15% of your macros, and the rest is mostly like carbohydrates, and then like protein is anywhere from like 10 to 16%, right? And you have a diet where you prioritize, fruit consumption throughout the day. If you eat a bowl of fruit, your blood sugar will go up in the short term, but it will come down really quickly, right? You have a second fruit bowl, your blood sugar will go up, but less than the previous time, and then go down quickly. Which each fruit bowl, and the longer you follow a dietary pattern like that, your insulin sensitivity increases, so your average blood sugar improves. Right? I work with a lot of diabetics, and this is typically what happens. They notice a significant change in their blood sugar to the point where they'd be waking up with blood sugar in like 180, 210, 320, real high. And then in 2 weeks, their blood sugar is down to like 160 in the morning, then 120. And then in like 3 weeks, it's down to like 100, 98, right? 95, like this type of thing. It happens real quick. That doesn't happen all the time. Some people are special cases where they may have other underlying conditions, really high cholesterol, really high blood pressure, atherosclerosis, kidney, liver disease, all these other type of things. If you have all these other compounding issues, it may take longer to see such significant improvements in your numbers, right? You just have more to heal from. But basically, the problem isn't the sugar. The blood sugar is high because your cells are not receptive to insulin. And the reason why is because of more than likely it's a magnesium and potassium deficiency. It's dehydration, low vitamin D, right? These are some of the primary drivers. And then too much protein and saturated fat in the diet. So when you increase saturated fat in your diet, saturated fat is a mitochondrial disruptor. Mitochondria are basically the energy producing centers of your cells, right? It's an organelle. The more saturated fat you introduce into your system or your diet, the saturated fat reduces the insulin sensitivity inside your cells. So your mitochondria don't function very well. And your mitochondria will actually visibly look different. Healthy mitochondria are like long, like they're like these long organelles. And there's a lot of them, and they're long. The more impaired they become smaller. They start breaking up into smaller pieces. So they look like dots rather than like these long kind of strips, right? They almost look like little like worms, your mitochondria, right? And then the more impaired they become smaller. And as they become smaller, they become more inefficient, right? So they convert your body's resources into energy at a slower rate. So this develops cellular congestion. And then on the outside, your cells become more resistant. And so your blood sugar just ends up being elevated because the glucose that's supposed to go out of your bloodstream and into your cells is not going into your cells because your cells are congested. So you have a traffic jam. If you reduce the fat saturation of your blood and you reduce the nitrogen or protein saturation in your blood, and then you increase water and potassium inside your bloodstream, you get a dilation of your vascular system. And then your blood is not as thick once you introduce the water and potassium, because the potassium is used to create blood plasma. So that loosens up your blood, and so now you get more nutrients and oxygen and whatnot inside your blood. So you get better blood flow. And you get more magnesium, and then when you get less saturated fat and clogging and gumming up the works, your cells become more receptive as a result. All right. Once I was 10 days on fast, and my body hard forced me to start working out. Found out during fasting, growth hormone is through the roof. Yeah, so basically, when you fasting actually helps to decongest your body, right? But fasting has like these phenomenal like hormonal effects. Fasting ramps up adrenal function, right? So fasting is a way to leverage stress to be able to force your body to create these adaptations that improve survival and longevity, right? So fasting, you create resource deprivation. So when you create resource deprivation, your body responds to that by becoming more resource efficient. So that when you do start eating again and you do start training, your body's a lot more receptive to that resource efficiency. So that's what the fasting does, right? So yeah, you raise like growth hormone and all of that type of stuff. Yeah, absolutely. I take Ceylon cinnamon and apple cider vinegar, but not consistently. I really don't know what to eat. Low energy, don't exercise. I weigh 133 pounds. What do I do? Yeah. Yeah, book a call with me, right, so we can talk more in depth about the strategy. But yeah, just to make things simple, if you have a carbohydrate dominant diet that is like, more fruit based, like a fruitarian style diet, at least fruitarian throughout the day, and then you have more like one savory meal at the end of the day, where you can have things like sweet potato, leafy green vegetables, lentils or chickpeas, things like that, in that final meal before bed. And then you have herbs, whether it be parsley, basil, curry, things like that to season your food with. And then you have like herbal teas. Let's say you have matcha or cinnamon tea in the morning with your first meal. Then during the middle of the day, you can have either basil tea or burdock root tea. And then with that final meal of the day, you can have like ginger tea. You can put a pinch of cayenne pepper in it also. And that helps to improve digestion, nutrient absorption, blood pressure, and insulin sensitivity, as well as the hydration of your lungs to increase oxygen uptake, right? Increased oxygen uptake increases lipolysis and reduces lipogenesis. Lipolysis is the metabolism and the breakdown and utilization of fat. Lipogenesis is the formation of fat. All right. So in a nutshell, that would be like the strategy to go with. Okay. What's the best fast for someone who's just looking for an overall reset? For an overall reset? I don't know what you mean by that. Like, what's the goal? Because when you say an overall reset, what are you resetting? Like, it depends on what you mean by that. I don't really know what you mean by that. Oh, it was 9.4 in 2017. Okay, that's good. Oh, wait a minute. Did you reduce your A1C by just simply cutting carbohydrates? So you're getting like these vicious food cravings? Yeah, like carb cutting just makes it worse because if you do eat carbs, your blood sugar, boom, soars. I've had people where they did keto for a really long period of time. They were diabetic. They did keto. They started eating carbs again, and their blood sugar and their diabetes was like worse afterwards. Their blood sugar blew up on them like a nuke. So that's why I say the carb cutting is not really such a great idea. What's up, boo boo? I just recently been in the hospital for high blood sugar. Weeks ago, sugar was so high. Yo, what? 687? Now it's at 118. Yo, how did your blood sugar get that high? What'd you do? That's crazy. I gotta hear that story. All right, y'all. I'm not gonna hold y'all up here too late, but I want to get on here with y'all. You know how I do every Saturday. I'll be on here 3 p.m. Eastern. So I will catch y'all back on Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. All right. Appreciate y'all. Oh, makes sense. I'm all of that. Yeah, there you go. My man Trevor Zen. See you Monday. Absolutely. While driving, a lot of sugary drinks, eating wrong foods, and stress. Are you a truck driver? Someone stole a bag of blueberries from the fridge while you were while you were reading comments. Yeah, we be fruiting it up in this house. Look at that. That's not even all of it. That's just all what would fit over there. All right, y'all, we're going on 2 hours. I'm not gonna hold y'all too much longer. Enjoy your Saturday, everybody. Appreciate you for tuning in and catch you on the next one.